May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Normally, I am against pointing people out in church services, but I can't not address the sheer amount of people who came from Trinity Brantford and Brantford at large. I invited them, and I didn't know how many would come. So thank you for being here, really. It means a lot to me. They know this, though many of you don't know this. I would preach at Trinity when I was doing my internship on a stool so everyone could see me. I don't have that today, but we take what we can get. If you happen to be a student, a faculty member, a peruser of the Yale Daily News, or someone who just simply happened to take a step near the Divinity School in the last week, then you probably know that our drama club produced the 1971 musical Jesus Christ Superstar. Yeah. Right here in this chapel, actually. And last Thursday, I had the pleasure of seeing it. Its resounding rock opera guided us through the story of Jesus's passion and death. Like many others, I was blown away by the sheer amount of talent happening in this room. And I was proud of the hard work many of my friends put into making the production. While it may seem like I attended the musical for its sheer unavoidability, or simply because I love my friends so much, I also attended for very serious and strict research purposes. But the sermon wasn't going to write itself. In all seriousness, one moment really stood out to me. It partly stood out because I had John's gospel on my mind for today, but it also made me reflect on John's passage a little differently. The moment I'm speaking of was a fleeting moment during the Last Supper scene between Jesus and Judas, and it went like this. Just when Jesus shares that one of his beloved 12 will betray him, the music shifts to an urgent, asymmetrical beat, and the apostles burst and bustle with confusion. Who will it be? And an angsty Judas interrupts it all, saying to Jesus, "Cut out the dramatics. You know very well who." Jesus, who now recognizes the irrevocability of Judas's malice, responds to him, "Why don't you go do it?" "You want me to do it?" says Judas. And Jesus says, "Hurry, they're waiting." Then, of course, Judas leaves to do exactly what Jesus pressed him to do quickly. It was this exchange that stuck out with me. And it didn't stick with me for its "do it, you won't" tone of taunt, nor for the fact that it is some of the musical's more embellished dialogue, but because it seems to dramatize something specific to the theology of John's gospel account. One thing that makes the Gospel of John unique is this very exchange, where Jesus tells Judas what to do, as if to reclaim some power over the pain of it all. Jesus simply says that the betrayer will be signified by whomever he gives the bread to next. And unlike the other Gospels, there are no words of institution at this Last Supper. By that I mean, John's Gospel doesn't include a moment where Jesus tells his disciples to take and eat. "This is my body, this is my blood." Instead, we get this fleeting exchange between Jesus and Judas. This exchange, which is narratively flanked by the foot washing and Christ's new commandment. "So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you, you also should love one another." These are two glorious moments in the Christian story. 2 glorious moments where Jesus invites his followers and friends into a way of life that is renewed and sustained by Christ's own example. And at the crux of it all, holding the two together, is the seemingly inglorious exchange between Jesus and Judas. Jesus sharing food with Judas, telling him to go on and do quickly whatever it is he intends to do. Why don't you go do it? Hurry, Judas, they're waiting. And Judas slinks into the darkness of the night. The Gospel of John challenges us here. The unexpected is what's challenging. The Gospel of John tells us that it is in this fleeting, interim, seemingly inglorious moment of shameful and utter betrayal that now the Son of Man is glorified and God is glorified in him. And yet, at the same time, how consistent is John for writing that alongside his opening refrain, that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and all things came into being through him. John's notion of time is really one of simultaneity, meaning glory can and does exist in the midst of pain. In doing so, the Gospel of John focuses so much on who Jesus is, not simply what happens to him. The Gospel reminds us of the Word made flesh, that the incarnation and the resurrection are two intimately linked events tethered in time. The Gospel reminds us that Christ's conception, his birth, his existence, including his mortality, are bound into one, that he lived and died as one of us. The Gospel of John shows us that the events of Christ's passion are significant even before they happen, that the cross is known well before it is immediate. For Jesus, his death never really was some plot twist. The knowledge of his own destiny allows Jesus to reclaim power over the sting of his friend's betrayal. He can tell Judas to go on and do it quickly because he, as God, knows that what was started all those years ago must be finished. But what is true is not always easy. If you yourself have ever felt the sting of betrayal, then you know it sucks. If you've ever betrayed someone yourself, then you know it sucks too. And Judas would be right there with you. I really think betrayal is among the worst feelings one can experience in this lifetime. Yet, for some reason, the gospel tells us that this betrayal is the site at which we find glory. So again, John says that after receiving the piece of bread, Judas immediately went out, and it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus says, now the Son of Man has been glorified and God has been glorified in him. Maybe somehow other betrayals, our betrayals, can be sites at which we find glory. Maybe those deep, shadowy, seemingly inglorious spots are painful cracks in our lives through which light can radiate. And the Gospel of John wouldn't let you forget this possibility either. The same gospel that tells us Judas went out at night, just before Jesus is arrested and hung on the cross, is the same gospel that recounts Jesus' warning to his disciples, night is coming. The same gospel that tells us the light shines on in the darkness and the darkness did not overcome it, also reminds us of this. On the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed. In John's gospel, light is always breaking through darkness. If we don't see it, John assures us it's coming. And if we look for it, we'll often see it. Hope bursting in. I want to leave you all with this last image. When the Berkeley seniors took their pilgrimage to the Diocese of the Rio Grande, we hiked up Mount Cristo Rey. It's an area where desert-colored peaks and valleys meet clear blue skies. It's an area where living beings have been migrating since the time of the dinosaurs. Its hiking trail includes shrines and altars leading all the way up to a massive limestone statue of Jesus on the cross. While this mountain range is beautiful, it is also its own site of betrayal. It's an area of heavy militarized surveillance. It's where migrants have been hunted by drones and people have lost their lives on its terrain. As we hiked this trail, we noticed that many of the shrines and altars had small tabernacles. Bursting out of the tabernacles and splayed across the altars were offerings of abundance. An abundance of little snacks, non-perishable goods, water bottles, first aid supplies. Each item left with the hope of nourishing a migrant on their way. Here, at this site of betrayal, light breaking through. Perhaps such an image doesn't seem to illustrate earth-altering work in the grand scheme of things, but something like it is what Holy Week ultimately draws us into. Holy Week reminds us that when it comes down to it, perhaps our job is not to save the world ourselves, but instead it is to do everything we can to remind others that the world is already saved. Amen.